welcome back. This is our new lesson, I Have Questions, how to have a great small group. The bottom line this week is, when it comes to small groups, you get out what you put in. So that means if you want other people to talk, you have to talk. If you want to hear their ideas, they want to hear your ideas, so you have to share them. You're getting exactly what you put in, and if you're giving 100%, you're getting 100%, and that's what we want. Now, our scripture this week is Hebrews 10:23 through 25. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. So, join us for our lesson if you want to learn how to have a great small group.
Some things are scarier when you have to do them alone. Am I right? Just think about it for a second. Haunted houses, presenting in front of a class, or trying out for a team are all scarier without friends. When I was in high school, one of the scariest times of the year was lunchtime on the first day of school. Can anybody relate? Now, I know what you are thinking. Lunch isn't that scary. I mean, what is it? Just sitting down and eating food. But go on this journey with me for one moment. We had 3 different lunch periods, so I never was sure who was going to be at lunch with me. Would my friends be there? Would the people I didn't like be there? Or even worse, would I have to sit with people I was only barely friends with? Not only did I not want to eat alone, I also didn't want to look lonely. I mean, who wants to feel or look lonely during lunchtime? Because of this, a normal thing like lunch became one of the most stressful times of the year. Things are simply better and less frightening when we can journey alongside of other people. And church is the same way. We're not saying that faith is scary or frightening, but there are parts of it that are confusing, just a little bit. It's easy and it's natural to deal with doubts and struggles. All of that is less intimidating if you don't have to face it alone. And that's one of the reasons we have small groups. We don't want church to just be a sit and listen to the lecture. We have so much of that going on in our life. It's not a monologue from a stage. We want it to be a dialogue, a conversation between you and other people. The concept of small groups sounds nice, right? But I recognize that it might not be everyone's favorite thing. Maybe you're not even sure why we do them. You may not be into your small group, and for a good reason. For example, maybe you're thinking, I already have friends. You might be thinking, I don't need a small group. I have my people. Have you heard that saying, no new friends? That's probably what you're saying to yourself. Why do I have to be friends with people at church? That feels a little forced to me. Or maybe you don't like some of the people in your small group. Now look, we get it. We don't want to assume that if we put a group of people in the same group, they're all going to be best friends. Sometimes people just annoy people. Sometimes people don't have anything in common, and sometimes people struggle with personality differences. All of that is normal and natural. Sometimes you may even wonder, am I supposed to fit in with this group? Or are they supposed to fit in with me? Either way, something is just a little off. You don't trust some of the people in your group. Maybe you like most of the people in your group, but you don't necessarily trust them. You're pretty sure that if you shared something deep and personal, someone would make a joke of it, or someone would talk about it outside of the group. You simply don't know the people in your group well enough. You don't know what they say or do outside the group. So being open and honest and vulnerable sounds good and all, but you are not sure if you can trust the people in your group. Or maybe you feel judged. Look, maybe you feel like your history or reputation isn't the best. You have made some mistakes in your past and you're looking around and you're trying to figure out, well, who has a story like mine? Or maybe you are new to church or you don't know much about Christianity or the Bible. Or maybe you're not even sure what you think about this whole religion thing. If you are really honest, really honest, you would admit that you are a little nervous to speak up. You wonder things like, what if I sound stupid? What if I don't know what I'm talking about? What if I don't know how to articulate the things that I'm feeling on the inside? Or maybe you're thinking, I can't say anything in small group. I'm not well behaved enough. And no matter how much we say from stage that it doesn't matter what you've done, you are always welcome in small group, we still get that it's difficult to truly believe that message. You don't want to talk to people. Maybe you're not much of a talker in any situation. Or maybe you feel like you come to church to connect with God. You don't have to talk to other people to do that. It's not that you think it's bad or wrong. You just hate it when you are talking and other people are looking at you. So small group is actually kind of nerve-wracking for you. And again, I promise you, we totally get it. Now the list can go on and on. Maybe it's a different reason for you. Maybe you find yourself in small group wondering, what are we supposed to be doing here? Or counting the minutes until you can leave and go get some food. You may not even go. Instead, after service ends, you bounce because the small group time just isn't your thing. And sometimes you may simply wonder, what's the point of small group? That's what we are going to talk about for the next few minutes. And so let's start by taking it all the way back to the beginning. Like the very beginning. You may have heard of the very first chapter of the very first book in the Bible, Genesis. It starts with, in the beginning, God created, followed by a whole chapter listing all the things God created and how God ranked each thing. When God created light, God labeled it good. When God created the sky, He said it was good. The land, the plants, good. The sun, the moon, good. The animals in the ocean and sky, good. The animals on the land, you guessed it, good. But when God looked at His creation in human form, this is what He said. It is not good for the man to be alone. Did you catch that, or is it just me? The first not good thing in all of creation was being alone. So what's my point? Here it is. We are wired to not be alone. We are designed for connection. But you know that already because you know what your friendships mean to you. You can tell that you are wired for connection by the way you feel weird and disappointed when you're FaceTiming your friend and they don't respond or pick up. You can tell you are wired for connection by the way when something good happens to you, you almost immediately send a text to that one friend you know is going to join in on that celebration with you. You know you are wired for connection by the way you feel when something terrible or unexpected happens and you just need someone to talk to. So why does small group matter if you already have friends? Well, small group matters because your spiritual growth matters. This is more than just somebody to hang out with or scroll Instagram with. This is secure, unfailing acceptance and connection with others. Let's take a look at the book of Hebrews. Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. Don't miss this. This is a big deal because the writer of Hebrews is talking to Jewish Christians, which basically meant they were facing execution and excommunication. And that just means exclusion from their community because of their belief in Jesus. This wasn't just saying, hey, if it's not too much to ask, could you skip Netflix for the night and make time to come to small group? No, absolutely not. This ask from the writer of Hebrews was saying, meeting together consistently is worth the risk of putting your life on the line. This was hard times. The writer of Hebrews stresses, don't give up meeting together. Why? Because we know at least two things happen when we meet together. The first is hope happens when we meet together. And what is hope? It's being convinced that our future is better than our now, and we all need that. Without hope, we don't end racism, we don't fight global warming, and we don't rescue the abused. Without hope, instead of finding a reason to fight for what's good and right, we let evil make itself at home in our world. The hope that things can be different is what motivates us to act. And it isn't just hope for the world. When we meet together, it reminds us there is hope for our own lives, hope for better days ahead, hope that next week might be better than this week. And the second thing is, love and good deeds happen when we meet together. We make each other better. Come on. We make each other stronger. Another writer said it this way when he said, iron sharpens iron, meaning we can make each other better. Meeting together calls us up and holds us accountable to set higher standards of who we imagine we can become. And maybe, just maybe, the most important phrase in that whole passage is not giving up. The writer of Hebrews knew that it would be super tempting to skip the church part of following Jesus. He knew that meeting together would require commitment and sacrifice. Showing up and connecting requires reshuffling and reprioritizing your schedule and guarding the time to get with your group. Meeting together doesn't always seem easy when there are other things you could be doing or other things that are grabbing for your attention. Now, I'm not just talking about meeting together with the other high schoolers in your group. In fact, a lot of the book of Hebrews is devoted to the idea of having a leader, a person who knows God and is a little further along than you in your life. The truth is, we all need somebody, an adult somebody outside of our families who can help us figure out this thing we call life. That's what your leader signed up to be. And here's the wild thing about this group of adults. They actually want to do this. They signed up for real conversations about your real life. They don't need a fake or perfect version of you. They signed up to be here every single week for you, and not just the fake you, but the real you. Here's what I'm getting at. This idea of community in Hebrews is more than just a group of friends. This wasn't your average group of friends watching football together or the people you make TikToks with. This was ride or die. These were the kind of friends and leaders who encourage you, cheer you on, say the real stuff to you, listen to you when you say real stuff that is going on in your life, love you enough to tell you what's real even if you don't want to hear it, stick up for you when somebody or someone talks bad about you and tries to hurt you. This is bigger than hanging out. This is what we call community. And here's the deal. The people who were meeting together in the original church, they weren't all alike. They weren't all friends before they came to church. They didn't all agree on every single thing. In fact, if I can be real with you for a second, part of being a mature person is understanding you don't have to like people to love them. Now, I know some of you are thinking, yeah, but my small group sounds nothing like that. But imagine with me for a second, what if it could? What would it take? The fact is, what's said in this verse can be true of your small group experience. Just think about it for a moment. Meeting together, motivating each other towards love and good works, and encouraging each other can be your reality. But we have to be honest here. You have to be willing to put something into it. In other words, when it comes to your small group, you get out what you put in. Let me say that one more time, just in case I missed someone in the back. When it comes to your small group, you get out what you put in. Either your small group experience in high school will be great or it won't. And this isn't something your leader can do for you. Ultimately, your group experience will be what you and your group decide it will be. And here's why that matters so much. The quality of your high school years will be impacted, better or worse, by your small group. What you put in here affects every other area of your life. I can introduce you to graduate after graduate who looks back on their years in high school and tells a story of their small group being where the best memories happened, the toughest conversations happened, the most important moments happened. And I can also introduce you to graduates who would say the opposite. For them, it was 1 hour a week in a group of people who weren't real, didn't really care about each other, and ultimately it didn't affect them. Both are possible and both are ultimately up to you. But how? What could and should we put into our small group experience? I'm sure there's a lot, but let's start with a few things. The first is this: be present. Commit to showing up for your small group every week. Give it a chance. Be open to what could possibly happen. You can never know what you could get out of the time you spend with your group. If only you invest the time. You know the difference between the parts of life where you actually try and actually care versus the parts of life where you pretend and try to pretend to care. Don't pretend in small group. Try to give it your all and see what happens. Secondly, create a safe place. I cannot stress this enough. Creating a safe place is so personal and unique. This is not about being nice. This is about being real. What happens when you are in a place where you know what you said will be talked about later by a group of people in your small group? You say less, you pretend more. In a way, you become fake because you feel as if you have to be. And I just think high school provides enough fake places with fake people. Am I right? You don't need more of that. You need a place where you can be safe enough to be real, the real you. But this is something that doesn't happen naturally. This is something you plan for and you fight for on a daily basis. This is something you call out when somebody does or shares after group in a way that makes group time an unsafe place. A real safe place is possible, but it takes a fierce commitment to protecting the safety of your group. And the third thing is, make it personal. Remember, you get out what you put in. You can't expect people to share if you don't share as well. So try going first. You have to make the effort to get to know people and to care about them deeply. Send that text. Start the conversation. Sit with someone from your group in service that you don't normally sit with. Don't pretend like you don't know each other at school. Say hi. Welcome somebody new in group. Be willing to talk it out when you need to, even when it's difficult and hard. So what's the point? The point is that we are made for more than surface level relationships. We were made for a relationship with God that we experience with other people in a very, very real way. We can literally alter our experience at church and ultimately grow our relationship with God by altering the investment that we put into small group. Maybe this sounds like something you want. Maybe knowing your current small group, it seems impossible. But just imagine with me, what if this was your small group experience? How awesome would that be? How different could your high school years look if you had a group of people who were always showing up for each other, safe and real with each other, who knew you, the real you? That's what small group can be. Whether that's true for your small group is entirely up to you. And that's what we want you to talk about when you meet this week. Because when it comes to small group, you get out what you put in.